Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa Human, and I'm here today with Colby Stevenson, who is a world-renowned free skier from Park City, Utah, USA. A little bit about Colby and his background. He started skiing before he was 2 years old. At age 15, he was selected for the U.S. rookie team and won MVP and best trick. After sustaining and recovering from a significant traumatic brain injury, which we're going to speak with him about today, he went on to win the World Cup Free Ski Championship, was the first rookie to win slopestyle at the X Games, was world championship medalist at the FIS, World Cup overall winner for slopestyle, was at the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing and was a silver medalist in the big air competition, and recently shined at the Slopestyle World Cup opener just last week. It was the Olympics, however, where I started to become aware of Colby and his story, and was very intrigued and think that the population at large will really enjoy what you have to say. In 2016, Colby was involved in a single car collision driving home after a Mount Hood tournament. You want to start by just kind of telling us about that night in the beginning of all of this and how it all occurred?
Yeah,
and again, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, happy to be here and happy to share my story. It's helped a lot of people in the past, so I am happy to continue to share it. That night was a long drive coming back from Oregon. We were skiing out there, doing some training, and 12 hours into the drive, missed a turn, and so I was in the wrong part of Idaho. I was supposed to be home by then. Anyway, I was drowsy and just fell asleep for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, enough to go off the side of the road. And then when I woke up and overcorrected, that's when the truck rolled off the road, and the roof of the car actually crushed my skull and neck, and shattered my skull in like 30 places. And I was unconscious for like 10 minutes, and I was actually able to get out of the car when I finally woke up, and then don't really remember any of that because it was pretty, traumatic, and I think my brain just kind of like blocked it out. But anyway, after that, they got me to the hospital, like rushed me into emergency surgery after, a couple life flights, and then was in a coma for a week or something like that.
What were the extent of your injuries? Do you remember what they said?
Yeah. Besides the skull fractures, there was like 2 fractures in my neck, vertebrae, and then like broken eye socket, jaw, broken ribs. And that was it. The head trauma was definitely the most significant because it had my brain swell to 8 millimeters. And at 9 millimeters is when brain damage starts. And then it actually went back down after 8 millimeters. So I got super lucky that my head was able to relieve that much pressure. And I was thinking it's because of all the fractures that, like, how when people get a brain injury, sometimes they have to drill a hole in the skull to like relieve pressure. I had so many fractures. I think I was able to like relieve some pressure through the skull that way. Anyway, I don't know exactly what happened, but
you're probably pretty right on that.
Got super lucky. And
what was the first memory after you woke up? Was it in the hospital? Was it out of the hospital?
Yeah.
Do you remember who was there?
My first memory is like when I woke up in the hospital, and then like all my family was around me, like my mom, my stepdad, my dad and stepmom, and some of my close friends. And I just remember looking at all them there, and I was like, no way, like this is serious, like, because I remember driving, and then I just remember waking up in the hospital. I was like, wow, like something must have really happened. And then, obviously just lots of painkillers, and the hospital visit was kind of a blur in that sense. But
when did you realize that you had neurologic deficits, and what were they, and how did they make you feel?
Right. So I guess I was released from the hospital after a few weeks, and that's when I started speech therapy. And I was pretty stubborn at that point, and like we were doing like memory tests, and like I never thought I had a good memory anyway, but like they were just like, no, like it's definitely because your head injury. And I was just like, no, like I was so determined to just like be okay that I think I was, missing the fact that I was actually, having these deficits. But then, yeah, after a few more speech therapy visits and like more neurological testing, I was like, okay, like I'm definitely a little slower here. And then it was the decision making, like, my mom would ask me like, what do you want to eat? Like she was taking care of me and I'd be like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what I want. She'd give me two options and I'm like, I can't decide. Like there was just something about it. I just couldn't make a decision. And then, obviously like depression and stuff is involved there too, which I'd never experienced to that extent. And, maybe that had something to do with the deficits of the brain injury and, obviously just the position I put myself in and, trying to be Captain Hindsight, like thinking back what I could have done differently, but yeah,
Talk
like
a bit more about your mental health during that period.
Yeah. So during that time, I was like super down on myself and just like, every time I looked in the mirror, I was like, I looked like a zombie. I had my whole forehead ripped off. I guess I left that part out. I had my whole forehead degloved by the roof of the car. So I had to have like some crazy plastic surgery and stuff to get it back together. And so anyway, that was definitely the hardest mentally, is like, once good looking person, then looking in the mirror, and I literally looked like a zombie. Like I just, couldn't believe that. And so I would sometimes wish that I had like died in the crash and, maybe I would have taught people a lesson and like not to drive tired, or like maybe I would have, I was just thinking crazy thoughts because I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel then. But that lasted for a few months. And, the more stuff I did, like playing cards or going on a walk, like stuff that would get me out of my head, that was when I started seeing the most improvements in my mental health. It was when I would just sit with my thoughts and stuff is when it was the hardest. So yeah, I definitely encourage anybody that has, some mental health things, like find things you enjoy, like playing games on your phone, or for me, it was like playing cards with my grandma, and then like, having a hot shower. I was like, that was the best part of my day because I was in so much pain as well. It was like just having a hot shower, like just on my back and stuff was, I felt so grateful for that. And then I just like started to realize all these things that I like was not as grateful for before the accident, that like, I was like, wow, like I'm so lucky to have that, hot shower in my day, or I'm so lucky to be able to have this great meal, and then I'd go to the speech therapy and I'd see people that were like having a harder time than I was. And I'd like, put myself in their shoes and be like, wow, yeah, I really got to be grateful for, my situation. And, even though I look like a zombie, at least I've got, motor function and I can move around pretty good. And, there was always this in the back of my head. I was always like, I'm going back to skiing, like whatever capacity it is, I'm going back. Like I was so determined. I just didn't know how long it was going to take. I had all these vertigo symptoms as well. Like every time I would lay down, I would just start spinning like in a tornado for like 30 seconds. And then I was like, how am I going to do a backflip? Like there's no way I'll be able to go on skis and do a backflip if I'm just going to start spinning in my head, but that eventually worked itself out. So there was all these factors that just like were trying to get me to give up on my dream. And then,
what
I just
had that motivated.
Like watching videos and like of my sport and, myself skiing. And then, just the fact that I was able to still move the rest of my body, but I think honestly, what kept me the most motivated was just being grateful to still be alive. And once I realized that I was that grateful, so grateful to be alive still, is like, I would go on a hike. It was finally when I could stop going on a walk around the block, and I was cleared to go on like a small hike out behind my house, like up on the hill. And I remember watching the sunset. I was by myself, just like listening to music. And I was just like, holy, like this world is so much bigger than me and so cool. Like I can't believe I ever like would take it for granted and, think negatively. And so then after that, I just kind of, just took it one step at a time and was patient with it, and just kind of knew I was going to get back to skiing at some capacity. And at the end of the day, it was, my muscle memory was never gone. So when I got back to skiing, it was like, I still had all the tricks and stuff. I just had to ease back into it, but
tell us about your support system. Who was your support system and how important was that to your recovery?
Yeah. So at the time, I was living with my mom and she's a flight attendant. She was able to take off work to help me for the first like 2 months. And I was so helpful. Like, so, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to recover as well, without her, and her getting up in the middle of the night to give me a painkiller and like give me oatmeal and like take me to all these appointments and stuff. And then my grandma flew out from Florida and stayed with us in Utah here. And so then my mom could go back to work. And, I got to spend a lot of quality time with my grandma, and she cooked me all the meals and would go on walks with me and stuff. And was really a, strong person in the mental health side of things. Cause she's really positive and, smart and fun. And, I had friends come by and visit, like an old teacher would come by and like read me a book. And, I'd have like my friend's mom would come and like give me a foot rub, or like, I had a girlfriend at the time that was, super helpful and like would come hang out, and, it made me feel like, I didn't look like a zombie as bad as I did, and it was just, all those things really helped me on the mental health side. And obviously that's like the most important thing for healing is like good vibes and good energy. Like if you don't think you're going to heal, like there's no way you're going to heal. So a lot of it to me was like, I was stepping up to this level of being in way better than I was. As in, like, I don't think I was actually as healthy, like mentally and physically. I'm trying to say that I didn't think I was as healthy as I was, or I thought I was healthier than I was, is what I was trying to say. And that's why I was able to do what I did, is because I just basically told myself, I can do this. Like, I got this. Like, it was no doubt in my mind that I was going to come back and ski really hard.
So what do you think your biggest challenge was during recovery and rehab? Was it physical? Was it mental? Was it both?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely both, because, having a crushed skull and being in a neck brace, I was in a neck brace for 6 weeks, not moving. And so all my muscles in my neck atrophied. And so I'd be like sitting and eating meal, and I couldn't sit for more than a couple minutes without having to go lay down because my neck hurt so bad. And obviously, like, living painkiller to painkiller is really hard on you physically as well. I never got addicted to them or anything, but yeah, I mean, the combination of the pain and the mental health, like, just can't believe I did this to myself kind of thing, even though it was an accident. Just definitely took a toll on me for a bit, but it was like, the whole world keeps going, but your world, like, stops. All your friends are still doing the same thing, and you're just kind of stuck. And you just have to know that that's not what's going to be forever. And my mom kept telling me, like, like a couple years from now, like, this is just going to be something that happened to you. Like, even though if she wasn't positive that like that was the case, but she had enough hope as well to at least tell me that, what I needed to hear. And I think it's really important to just be encouraging and know that it does take time, but in time, everything heals. So at least
residual effects do you deal with still to this day?
Yeah, like to this day, I have problems with like remembering some of my friends' names, which is super weird. It used to be like I was always a really good writer. Like I could just use big words and just kind of pull them out of nowhere. And that I lost that completely. And then I've gained a bunch of that back. And like after I started going back to college and stuff, that helped a lot. And like reading has helped. But yeah, I noticed a lot with my short-term memory. I still remember other things really well, but what else?
Any physical things that you have or issues with?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, my neck has always been the weak link since then. Definitely an issue. My head somehow has been pretty good. I've gotten one concussion since then that was a little scary, but I was fine like a week later. Um, no, the body's good. I mean, other than, the other parts of it deteriorating from all the abuse, but
How has this
overall good.
experience changed your outlook? And you've kind of already alluded to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this experience has definitely showed me to not take anything for granted and how precious life is. And I guess, how lucky we are to be on this earth. And it's so easy to get sucked into like your reality and, your world and your friends and all that. But I think it's important to like step away from that sometimes and realize the bigger picture of life. And that's how I found my true happiness was, just stepping out of my world and into the world and like thinking about, something greater than us. And that's what it taught me. And taking that into skiing was the reason I was able to go from, being a competitor and having the skills to then finally being able to have the mental game to win. Whereas before the accident, I was thinking like more about winning to like make the money so I could pay for travel. And I was just doing all these added stressors in my head, and it was keeping me from landing these runs at these competitions. And then after the accident, it was like, holy crap, like I can't believe I'm alive. Like, that first event was in Italy 8 months later. And it was like the most beautiful place I'd been in the Dolomites. And I was there with my dad. And I just remember like looking out and just like, I can't believe we're skiing here right now. And I actually like closed my eyes and like thought about all my loved ones, like my grandma and like my family and stuff before I dropped into my run. I was just totally skiing out of love and just feeling, my group, my sport group. And that was the secret in the end that I needed. And that was the lesson I needed to learn at the end of all this. And it's crazy because I don't know like how long it would have taken me to like just figure out that if I didn't have the accident. So I've always said that like, there's a lot of good that came out of it, and it like could be one of the best things that ever happened to me because it gave me a different perspective on life. And I just, super lucky.
That's super inspiring. One more, or a couple more questions. Let's just say you had $2 million and they said, going through this experience, where would you put the money for research? Knowing what you know now. And they said, what would you study? And it doesn't have to be, where do you feel that you felt as a patient and across the board, where would the money go?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Through my experience, I realized that there's not a lot of like research or ways to know how certain people's brains are affected. And I think it'd be super cool to invest in like a baseline neuro test for anyone who wanted it. And then after, any injury, you could have like stats to go off, or you could just create a better research system for people who have had brain injuries to like monitor them. And rather than just doing like cognitive testing, like manually, like if you could like hook up some electrodes or something and actually see how the brain's reacting. I don't know. That's way above my pay grade, all that technology stuff, but it'd be really interesting to have a better grasp on, I guess, the wide range of head injuries that people have and how we can help more people.
And I will tell you, like during this World Coma Day, there are going to be some presentations that are people researching exactly that to look at prognostication, as you were mentioning, and helping decide the way that we should be going in treatment as well. So I will take your $2 million. So last question, how do you give back? And you're giving back here today by giving us your amazing story of hope so that other patients with brain injuries can see that recovery can be full and actually meaningful at the end.
Yeah.
How do you give back? What are other things that you do now that you are on the other side of this?
I've done some like motivational speaking. I've talked to a bunch of kids on the local team here, and then up at this like film festival and stuff, just talking to a classroom full of kids and just basically saying that no matter what happens in your life, like injury, hardships, like we're blessed with the power to heal, and I'll try to look at the bigger picture kind of thing. And that's just kind of the message I've been trying to relay to anyone. And with sharing my story, I just want people to know that, yeah, bad things happen to all of us. And it's how you perceive that and how you think about it that's going to, decide your outcome at the end. And, yeah, we're blessed with the power to heal. And that's the message I'm going to keep telling to everyone. And I've had more injuries than anyone I know. And I just keep healing and just keep going and just take the good with the bad, because that's life,
I think that's inspiring. And I can't imagine a kid that doesn't need to hear that, because kids always have a rough time. So I think that your story is inspiring. Yeah. So Colby Stevenson, world-class free skier, Olympian for the USA. I'm going to give him 2 shout outs here, or 2 things. One, he has I guess it's a reenactment of your injuries or your accident called Nerve, and it's on YouTube, Colby Stevenson. And then he also has on YouTube an amazing backcountry skiing kind of demo that you can see his amazing moves. It's on Ignite. It's also a YouTube channel, Colby Stevenson. So today, I thank you so much for being here with us. You're really going to inspire a lot of people throughout the world. And again, good luck with all of your skiing endeavors, and I'll be watching you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.